an award-winning, so Dr. Patar is an award-winning environment and sustainability professional with over 20 years of experience, having worked with leading national and international organizations. And most of you might be familiar with the Energy and Resources Institute of India, and Earthwatch, GIZ, WaterAid, Wildlife Trust of India, Center for Environment Education. So basically, he has a kind of an expertise or experience in a variety of sustainable related topics, which holds good in the sector because of his experience. He could actually help a lot of people at a grassroots level, both in terms of capacity building and knowledge sharing. And academically, he holds a master's degree in environmental science, and he has a doctorate in biodiversity and tourism issues. He's also a recipient of many prestigious awards. I would like to name a few. That is a Social and Business Enterprise Responsible Award, Savera, Green Future Leadership Award, Changemaker of Assam Award, and he also nominated to a few of the most prestigious awards like Pranab Global Fellowship Award. He is mostly known for his scientific, mandate, but then I'd also like to mention that, he is also good in other humanitarian and social works that helps him connect with the local people in remote areas that the projects he implements, and also at a grassroots level. He is also a good writer, and therefore many of you might be aware that he has written a lot of articles and on various topics. He, being a nature-based solutions expert, a distinguished approach to conservation and technology for environmental sustainability, he also speaks at a lot of platforms, and both national and global level, and that gives a lot of exposure to other people, in knowledge sharing as all of you might be aware by now. He's like I said, he's also a good training expert. He has trained a lot of teachers, over 10,000 teachers that he might have trained by now, including students and NGO professionals in different environmental issues. He's also a member of the Climate Reality Leadership Corporation in the USA. He also a member of the IUCN and other specialist groups. He recently took charge of the Assam Science Society, which is a 1953 registered science society based out of Assam in India. So he's currently the president of the newly formed Assam Science Society Delhi NCR chapter, and he's also the secretary of the TERI Alumni Association in New Delhi. Currently, he serves as the chief executive of a Delhi-based organization called the Global Foundation for Advancement of Environment and Human Wellness, and he's also supporting a lot of local issues in community build-up and social work, like helping people with the government connections in terms of how to approach the government in policy development work, and giving his expertise or knowledge in developing more innovative projects or more projects that could be impactful in at a local level. I'm sure all of you will benefit from his talk today, and I won't take much of a time. It has not been, like I said, I might have missed a few points regarding Dr. Patar, but nevertheless, I hope you have a good listen to him, and I thank you for this opportunity. Dr. Patar.
Thank you, Mr. Rituraj. I really appreciate those kind words from you and the rich introduction. Thank you. Over to Dr. Hasrat. Otherwise, I can start. Thank you.
Please go ahead.
Thank you. So, hello, everyone. Namaste from India. It is indeed a great pleasure to be back here in this platform today. And I'm going to speak on another very, very important issues today, covering solutions to climate change impact. And let me first of all share my presentation. I hope this is visible to you all. So let me take this opportunity to thank our host and organizer, Dr. Hasrat Arjumand, who has, I believe, I would say he is an entrepreneur of a different kind I would say he's an academic research, an entrepreneur in the field of environment who has been bringing out new initiatives every now and then. And Global Lecture Series is definitely one of them, apart from other significant contribution he has made to the body of science. So my gratitude to Hasrat for giving me this opportunity to share my thoughts on this very important issue of climate action. And I'm going to focus as climate change has been occupying a lot of our space scientifically in the social media, in the newspapers, and everywhere we go, the talks and discussions about climate change has occupied a larger space already. So by and large, that has helped develop good understanding about this issue at the local level, among people at large. So I believe in a way that helps to build the consensus when we want to put together solutions, put together initiatives to fight the impact of climate change. So this is what is going to be the focus of my presentation, my talk today. And with, of course, I would substantiate them with some Indian experiences, some of our own experience working in the field of how we are putting climate action on ground. So as I have already mentioned, this is a global concern that, and it is visible to a large extent. Of course, it is also at the same time debatable, to what extent climate change is making our life difficult or causing problem to the environment. Of course, there has been a lot of studies about debates, about the extent, but there's no denying that this is happening, and this is happening to create problems for all of us, for the entire humanity, but also for every form of living organisms on the planet, on this planet. So it is a global concern. And if we look at some of these latest documents, for example, this is a very important document, Global Risk Report developed, which is being brought out by World Economic Forum on a regular basis. And if we look at the timeline-wise, immediate time frame, medium time frame, as well as long-term perspective, the top risks that are being highlighted are extreme weather events across either extreme weather events or climate action failure. In all these three time frames, from short term to long term, and it is substantiated by important data gathered from all over the world that gives us an understanding, how these the impact of climate change is making things difficult, and how it is being highlighted as a global risk, and why we should be bothered about it. So if we look at obviously the climate change is a fallout of increased emissions, increased emissions of carbon dioxide and other greenhouse gases. So that is causing most of our recent environmental challenges, including global warming, sea level rise, extreme weather events. And unfortunately, if we look at this particular slide, and most of these emissions are coming from, relatively better off, economically well-to-do countries and regions of the world. And fortunately, despite being one of the major contributors of carbon emission, these countries are not vulnerable to the impact of climate change because of a number of issues. And also they are well placed in terms of the economic conditions. They are able to put off a better fight as compared to people living in the edges, living in the developing as well as underdeveloped countries of the world, including large populations of Asia and in Africa, where these two continents combined house about 78% of world population. And obviously, they're more vulnerable to these changes because of the challenges around, because of poverty, because of lack of resources, because of bare minimum, necessities, including food, shelter, drinking water. So the vulnerability is high, and that creates more challenges. That also gives us ample points to debate with the rest of the world why there should be more proactiveness from the developed world to fight climate change. And that has been one of the major debates in the recently concluded COP27 held in Egypt. So as we look at the larger picture globally, it is also increasingly indicated that uninhabitability across the globe is increasing gradually but steadily, and that's not a right thing for humanity. If we look at this slide again, so it is projected by 2070, so another close to 50 years time frame, the world will see a lot of areas, a lot of regions, countries becoming inhabitable, not just for human beings, but also other life forms, other fauna of the world. So the change that is being caused by climatic events is evident and it's imminent. And so thereby it is prompting us to look at the solutions part. And that's what is going to be the focus of our discussion today. I don't want to go on emphasizing about the challenge of climate change, and which is, like I said, fairly well known. There are plenty of documents already available. The informations are available online. But what we must do now, we must discuss more about what can be done, what we can do, what we as individuals can do, what we as humans collectively can do to sustain our planet and our survival, ensure our survival. So that brings to the question of how can we act against climate change? How can we fight climate change? So let's look at what and why of climate action. So acting against climate change in every way possible is in the simple form of definitions can be, so every action that we take, every activity that we do, whether it is planting a tree, whether it is doing cleanliness, whether managing our waste in a proper and sustainable way, whether ensuring that our forest and green and blue spaces survive, ensuring that we have less pollutions emitting from our vehicles, from our houses, from the industries, that we reduce the pressure on fossil fuel. So all that is that come under climate action. So, like I mentioned, that the impacts of climate change is already happening, and we have seen how they are affecting people's lives in a variety of ways, or they're disrupting our rainfall pattern, they're causing extreme weather events, more frequent and unpredictable, difficult weather situations like floods and droughts, cyclones, tsunamis, and whatnot. So it is jeopardizing all forms of life and their habitats, including ours. And most importantly, which is also a major cause of concern, all these extreme weather events is causing serious trouble in our agriculture productivity, because agriculture, by and large, across the world, is dependent on rain pattern. I'm being from India. I can very well say that India is an agrarian country, and we have a large dependency on our agriculture producers, and it also happens to be the mainstay livelihood for a big chunk of population in the country. And they depend on the monsoon, though, which is our annual rainfall cycle. And so the moment monsoon misbehaves, or it doesn't come on time, or it pours more water, the precipitation level suddenly, it behaves in a funny way. So we tend to have direct impact on our agriculture productivity. And there are reports, for example, the World Health Organization that's regularly highlighting that it is also a health threat to the humanity. It is saying that that it is also impacting our family planning choices, putting properties at risk, becoming which is becoming uninsurable. So a lot of challenges are getting developed and getting manifested in front of us. Earlier, probably things were not clear why are they manifesting, but now gradually, if we look at the larger picture, critically analyze this turn of events, so things can be linked to changing environment, changing climate. So that makes it even more difficult to put together solutions at times. Bringing solutions is it's never easy. So let's look at what solutions we can do as individuals, or as groups, or as institutions, or as group of people. Because the solutions lies in our hands. So obviously, if we look at the international policy, the policy push, so there has been very, very positive changes and collective efforts being witnessed globally, like starting from 2015, which saw one of the major turn of events as far as policy is concerned. Paris Agreement was signed. The countries came together, agreeing to bring down the emission level, and also agreed to maintain the temperature rise within 1.5 degrees Celsius. And that has to be a continuous process. But as things getting more complicated, we are seeing more challenges getting piled up. So obviously, we expect our countries and institutions and all the stakeholders to be more proactive in taking these initiatives forward. So we constantly hear about two very, very common terminologies: mitigation and adaptations. Mitigations is more to do with the global and international efforts, at the country level efforts, to cut down the emissions. And adaptation is something that what can be done at a local level to ensure that we can face these challenges. We can build our resilience to face these challenges well and fight off the impact of climate change. And if we look at the global picture, more or less, most countries can be seen working very, very proactively, very, very sincerely towards mitigating, towards cutting down emissions in every way possible by developing consensus among the countries, among the industry sectors, about the corporations, among those who are considered as, the biggest polluters, biggest emitters of the world. The consensus are being built among them so that the emissions can be brought down. At the same time, at the local level, across the planet, across geographies, across societies, despite their economic differences, despite their differences in GDPs, we can see local actions being put together in terms of building that adaptation ability so that we can develop, enhance our resilience towards climate change. So things are very positive. So I keep saying, not everything is doom and doom. I see light at the end of the tunnel. And in 2015, something also apart from Paris Agreement, we also saw a major development internationally, that is the adoption of the Sustainable Development Goals. The countries came together globally, close to 200 countries. They agreed that there should be some collective goals that will help us achieve sustainability, not just for one place, one country, but for the entire planet. So these Sustainable Development Goals were adopted, and one of them, which is goal number 13, is about climate action. So something I'm sure all of you are aware. And that has helped countries, doing their bit, countries, societies, even at the individual level. I interact with a lot of stakeholders here in India. So a lot of, I was with an institution the other day. They are very well known in cultural educational society. So they have developed a program called PSG for SDG. So they're highlighting how people can contribute, individual can contribute to achieving sustainable development. And they're pushing people to adopt to something called sustainable human behavior. So these are important developments that we see at the grassroots level to solve the climate crisis. So one of the important part is, so obviously when we looked at the global risk part, so one of the major thing that was underscored was the extreme weather events. So which is something we cannot prevent extreme weather events, but what we can probably do is we can prepare, we develop our preparedness well to manage crisis, manage disasters like floods and droughts, or cloudburst kind of situations. And so when we are prepared well, so we can sail over the situations easily. So that is also very much part of climate action. So raising awareness, raising our individual and collective capacity to do things in a better way. And on that light, I'm very, very, I feel proud to present in front of our audience that in India is doing extremely well in putting together climate actions at various levels. In fact, India has been now rated as world's top best performing countries as far as climate action is concerned, and best in the G20 countries. So, which is, like I said, that's a sign of hope. And as a country, we are already on track towards achieving net zero status by 2070. Of course, a lot of countries in the Glasgow summit last year, they the commit to become net zero. And India also set a target for ourselves that by 2070, we will, our net zero emissions will be zero. So that means we'll have enough adaptation measures or offsetting measures to, bring our emission level to zero. And we are going on the right path. We have already put together a number of alternatives, including renewable energy sources. And India has a target of achieving 450 gigawatt of renewable electricity capacity. And by 2030 alone, so which is almost midway towards 2070. Not midway. It's another 8 years from now. So we'll have about 30% vehicles on road run by electricity or clean power. So that is a big development for a country like India, which is where population is the second largest at this moment, and our collective emission is fairly high because of the population. So of course, individual emission is not very significant as compared to developed world, but yeah, our collective emission is fairly large. And for a country of India's size to be able to put together so many climate action initiatives and being on track to achieve these targets is really appreciable, and I feel proud as I present this in front of you. So as we deal with this crisis of climate, crisis of environmental concerns, I consider that they are offering more opportunities, opportunities as in, let's look at COVID-19, for example. COVID-19 has not just taught us to be resilient, not just taught us to become more flexible, more impromptu in devising solutions, but it also had given us an opportunity to look at things from a very different perspective, be it on the professional front, be it on the personal front. So we have, for example, have adopted this or found this way of coming online and having discussions, seminars on a regular basis, and even serious deliberations online often. So that is something that we have learned from COVID-19, but also financially, it has given the world an opportunity to find solutions, find medications, find vaccines, and that turned out to be a big turnaround for the entire humanity. The countries not only made profit, the corporations not only made money, but also they helped treat people. They saved lives around the world. So similarly, when we are talking about environmental issues, we're talking about climate change. The climate change is offering enormous amount of opportunities in exploring alternatives. Let's look at this picture. From electric mobility, solars, wind energy, and all other green infrastructure kind of interventions that we are able to now explore and put together. And that is obviously giving us an opportunity to also do well economically. The countries who are, this is an opportunity for not just countries, but also individuals, whoever, it's like, first come, first basis, where whoever is able to put forward an innovative solutions, they will do really well. And not just do well for themselves, but also they would be able to provide enormous livelihood opportunity to other people. So it is a situation of turning crisis into an opportunity. So opportunities for development, of course, there are threats to development. Like for examples, more we emphasize on develop, something that we have also discussed yesterday, that, so obviously there is a possibility that will also, threaten our precious natural heritage. But that is only one aspect to it. But but it is done properly, we can always minimize these threats. But more than threats, climate action opportunities bringing about opportunities all around. Like for example, land restoration, ecosystem protections, climate smart agriculture that helps reduce emissions, simultaneously secure livelihoods. And of course, we'll be talking more about how livelihoods are getting created as we are progressing on the climate action front. So where are these jobs, alternative jobs coming in, especially in last few years? They're mostly coming in from the renewable energy sector. Of course, there are the conventional sectors like manufacturing, construction, repairs, rental services, so on and so forth. But and apart from the conventional manufacturing and construction industries, manufacturing and construction associated with developing green sector, green infrastructure is also another aspect that we must seriously look at as an opportunity. So a good number of jobs globally are getting created in these sectors. So there's a projection by 2050, about 52 million jobs would be created alone only in the renewable sector, energy sector. And when I say renewable sector, as this sector is very large, so we, from a structured job opportunity to unstructured alternative job opportunities, we can find all sorts of jobs getting generated, livelihoods getting generated from installation of, for example, a solar, before that, of course, manufacturing of a solar panel, or solar devices, photovoltaics. From there, transportation, then installation, maintenance and operations, then recycling. So all that is created as we see emergence of alternative energy sector. But of course, there's a flip side to it. About half of about 50% as compared to, like, we are generating about 52 million by 2050, but at the same time, there's a fear of losing about 27.7 million jobs. But the opportunity is that it is also creating and offering skill development. So people, if they can adapt to new skills or acquire new knowledge, they can obviously can get re-absorbed in these sectors. So growth predictions, if we look at overall the green sector, so there's a growth projection that by 2030, so this the revenue will increase up to 57.8 billion US dollar, and that is a huge economy for and for many smaller countries. This is not even their annual turnover. Similarly, 24 million jobs are. This is as per ILO's Information International Labour Organization. So additional jobs are getting created. So India alone to add 3 million jobs in the renewable sector by 2030. So for a country like India, which has a very high demand for job creation, so this is definitely coming as a positive development. So waste management sector, which is often considered as an unorganized sector, especially in India, because in India, waste management has been in the doldrums for a long time. Of course, now things are getting better because of the push from the government and other civil society organizations and non-profit sector. things are gradually, but I would not say very, very significantly, but yeah, gradually we see the positive change taking place in the sector. So waste management sector, we see because of our demand to segregate, dispose, and convert them into something else, something more valuable. We see more jobs getting created because the waste, as the world has become more materialistic in terms of we just acquire. Sometimes we don't even realize whether we actually need them or we don't need them. But we continue to acquire things and we end up creating more waste, including electronic waste. For example, all these gadgets and devices, because every now and then we get updated devices coming into the market. For example, the mobiles. So obviously we're creating more electronic waste, and electronic waste alone is a very, very big sector, and especially I keep reading the papers. It says it's going to be a tsunami of e-waste in the coming years, because we still have not been able to put together a proper mechanism to process the electronic waste. And it is not just about India, but this is happening across other parts of the world as well, except few countries in the West. So these challenges are posing more opportunities as we pursue solutions towards it, and and these solutions are offering job opportunities, economic revenue opportunities for people, companies, individuals, startups. So now coming to the wastewater sector. So as we have a very popular saying, the water is life. So obviously water is life because, we are dependent on water in a number of ways, not just for drinking, but also in our consumptions and the industries, the cooking, agriculture, washing, all sort of things require waste. And so as we use more water, we end up creating wastewater, and that now with the scarcity of fresh water increasing, so obviously there's more push and demand for recycling of water, for water treatment. So this is an projections here given. Increasing growth of food, pulp, paper, and chemical industries are contributed to increase the demand for wastewater treatment services in Asia Pacific. So there's a rise projection about from 53 million billion US dollar to 71.6 US dollar billion economy it will become in by 2026, just in wastewater treatment services. So that is the market, and we are looking at. So these opportunities are obviously huge, and that is also impacting the GDP in a positive way. If we look at this projection again, by 2050, 1% of the global GDP, or 29 cents per person per day from will be required to secure water for our societies. So every dollar, it says that this is a very important data that provided by World Resources Institute, that every dollar invested in water access and sanitation yields about an average of $6.8 in return. So it is becoming a lucrative business to invest in the water sector. Water supply, water treatment, and recycling. So all these processes, and if we are not able to put together the required solutions in the water sector, God forbid, So it says, World Bank said, the failing to implement better water management policies could result in regional GDP losses from 2 to 10% by 2050. So obviously, uh, 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 there's a pressure that, if we don't do this, if we falter on doing that, so our GDP will go down. So we have no choice but to do more on this front. In the US, for example, in California, this has been listed an commodity now, is listed in terms of tradings. So it has become a tradable commodity now, water. And obviously, with every passing day, it is creating more jobs. Like, for example, US Department of Commerce Bureau of Economic Analysis found that each job created in the local water and waste industry creates 3 to 3.68 indirect jobs in the national economy. So that is what is something that we must look at. So when I say alternative livelihood in the beginning, the subtitle of this presentation is alternative livelihood. So until a long time ago, we never heard of something called green sector or green jobs. Now this is emerging as a more potent opportunity globally, and green sector as a whole can be considered as an alternative career field. Of course, it's no longer alternative; it is the mainstream now. But for a lot of economies, it is still on the fringes. But as we are putting in more efforts towards climate action, so obviously, gradually it is shifting from alternative to mainstream. So all these, and within that sector, like I mentioned, I refer to an example of solar sector. So these sectors are not only creating direct jobs, but also creating indirect jobs. And that is increasingly important as the world faces an steep rise in population. So we will be able to generate more jobs and livelihood for people around the world. Now coming to, this is a very interesting slide again. I want to give you some highlights and examples from how social startup sector in India is performing. So this is a very important sector, especially from last few years. India has seen an material rise in the startup sector. Startups, where I say startup, it's basically the mostly sectors associated with social and environmental issues. So in that social and environmental space alone, we see a steep rise of number of startups coming up and doing good business, making profits on a regular basis. Like, for example, social enterprises in India raised about 5.2 billion since 2010, year 2010. So that is the money they were able to mobilize from their investors. So average deal size for social impact investments growing from 7.6 million to 17.6 million US dollars. So this is a little bit old data. So this is an information between 2010 and 16. So between 6 years. So this is the kind of growth that we are seeing, witnessing in the startup sector. And with many startups focusing on providing environmental solutions. So this is another very important pie chart. So we see a significant percentage of social enterprises directly dealing with climate actions or environmental solutions providing, like, for example, sustainable energy, air pollution, ecological endeavors, clean water supply, so on and so forth. So this is a very, very important development and positive development that we see at the country level. So I would go a little deeper into in providing grassroots level experiences, how the climate actions are getting developed, how what is our direct involvement in creating solutions toward climate change and creating new livelihood avenues for people. So as I'd mentioned, nature protection, education, interpretations, they are now increasingly uh, getting emphasized at various levels. And now people are looking at it uh, at a potent, job sector. The earlier, for example, even in the non-profit sector, which I come from, and I'm sure we have many friends from the non-profit sector here in this audience. And, when I started out more than 20 odd years ago, uh, aspirations to work in the NGOs or civil society organization, non-profit sector, was not there. People used to think that this is waste of time and resources, because it is not rewarding financially. It may be rewarding mentally, psychologically. People might end up earning acquiring a lot of knowledge, or maybe respect, honor, and all that, but not money. Certainly, this was not considered as a top choice for people. But now I keep looking at studying the statistics, where people are now opting for this kind of jobs, and seriously opting. When people coming from top business schools, they prefer to work in the sustainability sector, and that's a positive sign. And as we see that shift at the mainstream, so obviously because of their positive shift, we will end up creating jobs at the grassroots level. And for grassroots level jobs, another very important uh, thing that I would like to highlight, the things like restoration work, things like handicraft. And that is, by the way, linked. I'm going to narrate another story in the next few, next couple of more slides. And things like carbon offset projects, and especially now the volunteer carbon market emerging as a strong contender globally. So we see a lot of carbon offset projects being implemented at the grassroots level in places, far-flung places, even in India alone, if or the state that I come from, Assam, which is in the northeastern part of India. I see a lot of carbon offset projects, or projects linked to carbon market getting implemented on a regular basis, and in large scale, in large volumes. So similarly, low carbon cooking and heating, which is again linked to carbon offset projects. So we see all these projects getting implemented, and opportunities getting created. Now, with corporations coming to voluntarily coming to invest in this sector, so obviously new jobs are getting created, and something not heard of, at least even 10 to 15 years ago, would have been very difficult to foresee that this kind of projects will be implemented in these far-flung areas, and that they will be able to generate jobs for local people. So I would like to highlight a few more examples from our projects. Like, for example, this is a joint initiative with another organization, Chinar, from the state of Uttarakhand in India. So we've been helping, through value additions in the agriculture sector, by offering training and capacity development to local farmers, local communities, to be able to for them to get better businesses, for them to get fetch better prices for their products, whether it is by training them to, in packaging, in presentation, because presentation also is very important. If we visit a market and something well presented properly, so it is tempting, at least, you get tempted to look at and then eventually buy. So that is also important. These are basic things that we are trying to develop in the communities that we work with. Like, for example, this packet of mushroom that's being developed by another partner organization here. So they are working, so they've developed a technology to enhance the D vitamin content of mushrooms, and which is again a win-win. This is because it also has huge health benefits for people, a population where we see, especially in India, a young population in the urban areas, we see a rise in D vitamin deficiency because of less of exposure to sun, direct sun, because which people work in air-conditioned offices and hardly go out and work in the sun. So for them, so these kind of mushrooms or foods which has high D vitamin is very, very useful. But at the same time, mushroom, many a times we don't realize, unlike many other crops, mushroom is a low carbon crop because it has very little water footprint and very little carbon footprint, or carbon footprint is almost equivalent to none. So this also has an climate action angle to when we are able to promote this kind of technologies or crop. And people obviously, if they're presented well, and if people do realize uh, 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 the value, so they tend to fetch better market. They tend to fetch better prices in the market. I see a hand being raised by Mr. Khan. Uh, uh, do you would you like to share some observation, or do you have a query, or you want me to take it at the end of the session, or otherwise, with the permission of our host, I can. You may please raise a question now. Otherwise, we can continue, and we can take the questions later.
No, please take the questions on the end. Please finish yours.
Right, sir. Thank you. So another important aspect, and when we are working at the communities, and when we are trying to build the resilience of the communities by teaching them or offering them new technological or exposing them to technological advances, it is also important, especially in the agriculture sector, that that we are able to also create a sustainable supply chain and create a market linkage for them. So some of our interventions are towards building that market linkage. We also work with the communities in providing training like responsible tourism, nature watching, and things like that, alternative foods, and which can be served to the communities of guests or tourists. So this is also very important because tourism is often considered as a green practice, although it has its share of carbon footprint, especially tourism with reference to transportations and aviation, especially air aviation, which is considered as a high, uh, uh, it's an it has a it is an energy intensive practice, and plus it also has a high level of emissions. But other than that, tourism considered as a green practice, which has a very low. So developing this kind of opportunities and offering training to, for example, this picture that you see on the left, it is from a picture, the homestay from the Uttarakhand. So there now people are learning that that way also, without making any additional investments, they can earn a decent living, thereby contributing to conservation of our nature and our environment. So we are working with local NGOs in developing or strengthening these kind of local interventions towards building climate resilience, or building climate action projects at the local level. So this is another very important picture that I would like to highlight, especially the one on the left on the top and one on the below. So we have worked with Indian Institute of Sciences in Bangalore in getting local people, youths trained in developing low carbon energy devices for cooking and heating. So this is, I believe, of course, it was a pilot project on our part, but I believe this is a very, very important interventions towards building climate resilience and towards creating livelihood, because often we see things like advanced or improved cook stove programs, which is a very important intervention, because it helps reduce our pressure on forest for fuel wood, and at the same time it also reduces the emission that is getting generated from conventional cooking where we use for fuel wood. By providing alternatives or improved cook stove, so that all can be addressed significantly. So, but normally what happens is, they are procured from a far from or a manufacturing unit or a company that's based out of hundreds of miles away or maybe thousands of kilometers away. And so when we procure and supply them to our end users or beneficiaries, so we end up also increasing a lot of carbon footprint. So to counter that, we're trying to see at a pilot level if we are able to develop the capacity of our local youth, our end users, and in turn, if they can develop these devices or manufacture cook stove all by themselves with locally available raw materials in the places where they're going to use it, it is going to be win-win for all. One, of course, we are able to get rid of the carbon footprint coming from the transportation. The second, that we, by training and providing the skills to our local, so they are able to prepare what they need, the manufacture what the devices they require, and in turn it is turning into a local entrepreneurship model that has been able to create livelihood for other people. So these kind of small interventions are being tried and tested in our project sites, and I feel this kind of models have a long way to go in a positive sense in building climate resilience, building and fighting climate change, and by creating alternative livelihood to people, and at the grassroots level. So this is another very important work that we undertake, promote, propagate, the restoration of water bodies, rejuvenation. So rejuvenation often engage or require people who have that understanding or particular skill sets, whether we do mechanization, mechanically clean and desilt a pond, or plantation of a particular plant, or creating constructed wetland, which is considered as a beautiful eco-technology for treating sewage, domestic sewage or municipal sewage by way of using certain beneficial plants there which absorb the organic content, pollutants or impurities from the wastewater. Or floating islands, which is again a very popular model, where again the plants are being used to treat sewage water, and monitoring and water quality testing. So all these activities, which is part of if you look at the entire cycle of pond restoration, so it require very specific skill sets, and these projects are undertaken both in the urban and rural areas, in areas which is away from the mainland or away from the cities, So if we are able to develop the capacity of local people, so one, we are able to implement the project well. And when we have the local capacity, they would also be able to manage these sites well, maintain them in the long run in a more sustainable fashion. And as we see more demands and need for restoring water bodies, especially Indian context, there has been a few campaigns at the national level. For example, there's a campaign called Amrit Sarovar, which was launched by the Honorable Prime Minister of India to develop water bodies in every district, in every village of the country. So we see increasing demand for in realization that our water bodies are dying and we have a serious water crisis ahead of us. And to alter that, to counter that, and to become a water secure society, so we would be needing more skilled people. So thereby we see jobs getting generated at the local level. So this is another a very interesting highlight of my presentation. There's a invasive species called water hyacinth. The water hyacinth is a floating species that found its way to India many years ago, many decades ago rather, and now like other countries including South America and other parts of Asia, they are all over the water bodies, and they're considered nuisance for the ecosystem because they contribute to and eventually leading to the decay and that of an ecosystem or a water body or a wetland, because they absorb the entire surface and eventually killing the other fauna as well as flora, including aquatic species like fishes and all that. So they are considered a nuisance and they require to be removed manually, mechanically. And so there's no way from it. So we need to be, if we want a healthy pond, we want a healthy wetland. So water hyacinths need to be removed. So we have been engaging with the local communities for valuable utilization of these waste, these weeds removed from the water bodies. This is an example from a Ramsar site, which got recognition as a Ramsar site just a year ago, just in last year, in Haryana state of India. It's a place called Bhindavas. It's a very well-known bird habitat, bird sanctuary. But the wetland was struggling because of the indiscriminate growth of various aquatic weeds, including water hyacinth. So we have engaged with the communities, provided them skill training to turn these weeds into wealth. So they are now, all these beautiful pictures on the bottom, you see there's this local woman. They are converting these the weeds into handicrafts, beautiful handicrafts, and they were sold in the markets, including international trade fairs held here. So these kind of local interventions, but I see a lot of value in the long run. I see if we are able to collectively work individually as well as collectively at various walks of our life, wherever we can to inspire, wherever we can to participate, wherever we can to support, help, mobilize resources, funds to undertake these kind of projects or initiatives. I see we will be very easily put together efforts to fight climate action, but also generate livelihoods at the grassroots level. And this will hold true for countries which has large populations and struggling with poor economy and poverty and lack of jobs and livelihood, employment. So this is where I want to end here today. And this picture is from the very well-known river of India, most revered river of India, Ganges. So I want to, with this slide, I want to end my presentation and thank our host and organizer, Dr. Hasrat, for this opportunity once again, and would be happy to take the questions and queries and listen to your perspective. So thank you once again.
Yes, please. Thank you, Dr. Pranab. I like to invite the audience for their questions. So if someone is having a question, please come forward.
Yeah, Mr. Khan, I think he wanted to ask a question at the time.
No, thank you very much. It was kind of by mistake. Thank you. Thanks for lecture.
Thank you.
Okay. Any question? You can write in the chat box if you like.
Excuse me, Doctor, can you share the slide through email, if you don't mind?
Yes, sir. I think it will be made available through the website, the Grassroots Institute website, at the later stage, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah.
You should follow the email communications which we disseminate. So our system is very very robust. We are not haphazard. We work in very systematic way. So you will find all the information, including the recorded video of this entire lecture of 1.5 hours. So you will find it on the YouTube, and the link, the presentation file, everything is there. Even if,
okay, thank you. Noted.
Yeah, even your photo on this screen will also be there on the website. Okay, any question, please? So no question. Dr. Pranab, you are lucky. There is no question.
No, but I would have liked to get some questions because these opportunities, these sessions are should be of mutual learning, and I look forward to these sessions because so that I can also get other perspective from people around the world, because I may have gathered some information based on the work that I have done, but there may be others sitting in the audience who may have better experience or similar works undertaken in their part of the world. So I always look forward to these sessions as a mutual learning opportunity.
I remember during this our November series, there was one lecture on the fisheries. It was a lecture on biological indicators, fish used as the biological indicator for water quality.
Right.
So this lady was excellent in her lecture.
Right.
And I remember there were about 20 questions.
I see. Wow. Wow.
And everybody had enjoyed that particular lecture. Not only that, but also the question and answer session.
Right.
So sometimes it happens very nicely.
Yeah, I would say she is lucky.
She was lucky.
She was lucky. Yes. She was lucky that people participated, so and they got engrossed. So that is something.
In fact, yes. In fact, I mean, like, because of this this Ukrainian problem, our audience has drastically reduced for last several lectures.
Right.
Few lectures, not many.
Right. Right.
Otherwise, the house was full, quite full, and people were really enjoying.
Right.
So, Doc, any question, please? You can write on the chat box. In the chat box, please write. Or if not, then I obviously I will, as usual, I will intervene with my few interventions.
Okay, Dr. Ashraf,
Dr.
can I?
Pranab, yes, want to say
Uh, I would like to add something.
something? Please.
Sorry, yeah.
Right, sir. Please go ahead.
Uh, Thank you, Dr. Pranab, for yesterday's presentation and today also. And yesterday it was very nice, the blue and greens. I really liked your presentation, yesterday's presentation also. And in basically in Nepal, I'm from Nepal,
Right.
capital city,
Rose,
Kathmandu.
please come closer to your mic. You are you are speaking the low voice, please.
Okay, sir.
And
Now,
talk for today. Yesterday has gone.
okay, sir. Now it's audible, sir. Hello.
Yes, you go ahead.
Okay, so yes, sir. I'm from capital city Kathmandu, and it was very nice. Sir, here we do have river basins and different rivers flowing from this Kathmandu Valley, and this blue. You talked about the blue water, but here, due to overpopulation, this blue river and lakes are turning into basically black. Let's say that is sewerage. Okay, and, due to overpopulation, the groundwater table is also decreasing. It's going down, and what happened is after Gorkha earthquake 2015. And what interesting thing happened in our country is that less people were there was a loss of life and life houses in Kathmandu Valley.
Right.
And from this nearby districts, people started to move inside this valley, as compared to nearby hills and hillocks, other part of the country, nearby districts. And what happened is this little greenery was again started to change to concrete in the case of Kathmandu Valley. So I just want to share this experience about how we can just make a little bit nice about these things. How we can go through it. I think in India also this overpopulation problem is, I think, growing, and how you are tackling with this I think, let's say it's a gray water or something like that, how you are turning into the blue. And other thing is that the snow-capped mountains around mountains here in Nepal, they are losing this snow line is
The glaciers.
climbing
Yeah.
side. I think it's better to include that thing also in your presentation, sir, I think, because India do have these mountains, I suppose, in northern part, some part, and
True.
snow line is climbing
Receding.
up.
Yes, receding. Yes.
Yeah, receding. Yeah, and I know we have many these hazards like glacier like
Yeah.
outbursts.
Cloudburst. Yes.
Sometimes, yeah. Cloudburst is due to the rain, but
Right.
we have glacier lake outburst,
Right.
and sometimes
Yeah, that
damming of
also
the
happened in
water.
India as well. Yes.
Yeah,
Mm.
damming of the water is creating such problems.
Right.
Your presentation was interesting, and I'm also willing to. I'm searching for the solutions of this problem. It will be. I will be happy if you share something about
Okay,
this.
okay. I mean, okay. Now let him reflect. You'll please reflect very quickly because he has already consumed a lot of time. Okay, please.
And yes, now in this situation, in such situation, how we can generate opportunities or something like that as per your presentation. Can you please?
Okay, Saroj,
Yeah.
let him speak. Let him
Okay.
reflect now.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Suroj Nirola. I really appreciate your valuable comments. And now coming to a question, you see, uh, this is very important for to come all the stakeholders on board. It is because although individual, I mean, there's something called we should always realize that the power of one. Even an individual can make a turnaround. So that is a very important, very, and it's true also. But it is also important that for that individual to mobilize a support around, and support with logic, support with scientific data and information, because otherwise, of course, sometimes we in Asia, people are of course very emotional. So also sometimes emotional connect also works very positively for conservation. But apart from emotion, what is important is to highlight the data, the science behind it, so and make the stakeholders to act accountable for their action, and also to act positively. Thankfully, sometimes it is easy, sometimes it is not, depending on the person or the institutions. But if we are able to put together a social movement without confronting anyone, it becomes easy to build that consensus. And when you are backed up by data, scientific data, and there has been a lot of research undertaken, not just in Nepal, but the entire Hindu Kush Himalaya region. There are a lot of data, and especially including your institute, which is in your hometown itself, in Kathmandu International Center for Integrated Mountain Development. They have done enormous amount of work around these aspects, not just climate change, but also extreme weather events and solutions and alternatives and all that. And they're based in Kathmandu only. So IC mode, so create consortium of institutions, like-minded people, and so that you are able to influence the right kind of people, especially your policy makers, the decision makers, the politicians, political parties, to get things done. Of course, it is always easier said than done, but that is the only way out, because you can be the catalyst, you can be the trigger point, but to be able to get others to act, you need to build that consensus, and that can be achieved only when we have a movement to influence others. So that's what I wanted to highlight here. Right, thank you.
Dr. Pranab, we
Okay.
have very less time now left.
Right.
And in fact, I'm restless to speak something because
Please, sir, please go ahead.
Yes, I have announced a couple of things
Right, sir.
before the closure of the session.
Absolutely, sir, please.
So, yes, before going to announce anything, I like to just reflect something on your lecture. If you remember in the beginning, you had a slide wherein you showed the contribution of different countries, different regions to the climate issues.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You showed the US is the largest contributor,
Right, sir.
followed by the China, followed by Russia, and followed by India.
Right, sir.
So I believe this is very old statistics. This
Yeah.
is my observation, because
Right.
China nowadays is leading in terms of contributing to the climate issues, climate
Right.
change, especially the global warming.
Right.
Whereas US is the equal contributor, but I think the statistics is now saying something like equal, China, US equal. Then coming to Russia, I have a serious objection on Russia's position, the number third, on as the contributor to the climate change. I think the Russia should come first now, because
Yeah.
as on today, for last 8 months, 9 months,
Right.
Russia has been destroying one another neighboring country,
Right.
Ukraine,
Right.
and Russia is like doing it in a worst way.
Right.
So I think not only, I mean, from different perspectives of the humanity and the global politics and global governance and all that, but but also in terms of the polluting the environment, polluting
Right.
the air.
Right.
So every time, every day, it is shooting the missiles and
Yeah.
lot of
Yeah.
smoke
Yeah.
coming out.
Shelling. Yes.
So tomorrow, when we will assess this atmospheric pollution done by that, and not only atmospheric, but also a lot of this waste, like other kinds of the waste.
True. Yeah,
So
completely.
landmines and destroyed rockets, etc., missiles.
Spilling chemicals.
I mean, yeah, spilling
Yes.
chemical. Yes, you're right. You said dangerous chemicals.
Exactly.
There were the banned bombs which Russia used.
Right.
Which were banned, basically, like having the glasses, etc., all that.
Right.
So it's extremely dangerous
For the environment also.
polluter
Yes.
in the world this time today.
True.
I think although the United States also the same had done the same, destroyed so many countries. Not only one.
True.
The United States has the most notorious record in the world and most heinous record in the world of this kind.
Right.
So today, I think this statistic should be corrected. Coming to India, also, I think India is also not a very less polluter. Okay. Last thing in this context is that this climate, whether the climate, this hue and cry of the climates, is really not suppressing the real issues of the human populations, like poverty and many issues. For example, we were very vocal in talking about the land issues. Land grabbing was one issue, like land alienation by big corporations of the poor, eviction of the people, displacement of the people, internally displaced people, and then also forcing the people to migrate outside the countries, for example. So these issues, for example, we have the Syrian experience, when the United States and they have bombed the Syria recklessly, and then Syrians, how they crossed the Mediterranean Sea to Europe, and that was a very one of the biggest human tragedies. So these are the eviction and displacement of the people done by large corporations and even the governments too. So these kind of the issues have been really suppressed by under this climate. Every third person is becoming the expert of the climate. I really have a serious objection of this. On the LinkedIn, if you see on the LinkedIn, you will see every third person is the climate expert. I don't know what these climate experts are trying to do. It is just like when the computer has come into the market first time. So every third corner of the street in India, in South Asian countries, was having a computer training institute, computer training shop, and also selling shop. So the computer has become like, and today the computer has gone. Nobody learns the computer in the institutes. Hardly some people very professional, like interested in MCA or programming, they do it. Otherwise, computer has come onto your palm, in the hand. So similarly, this climate has become really a serious fashion. I'm not understanding why the real should have been, and lastly, the culprits are scot free. Nobody is talking about these climate crisis creators. The same people who are just advocating in the United Nations forums, or organizing the big forums, very lucrative, luxurious forums, with the huge money of the corporate flowing in the sector, on this, in the name of climate. And really they are simply talking, and nobody is, and the same industrialists who have destroyed the environment, who really have contributed to global warming. And the thief has become the protector. You see how the dimension has changed. The person who is the real criminal has become the protector of the world. This is ridiculous. I just laugh at it. Why is this happening? And tomorrow I tell you, uh, really I tell you that tomorrow, maybe in 10 years, 20 years time, you will see they all go underground. They all go underground, these climatologists, the climate advocates.
Right.
And nothing will happen. The world is going into the hands of only the ultra capitalists, and then they are just revolving the whole world on their fingers. That's it.
Mm.
Sometimes they bring the superficial issues into, and we have seen in the case of the Ukraine, like the whole Western world has failed. Their governance has failed. They are totally impotent in front of Russia. You see, Russia wants to do anything it wants. They are all speechless. The Irish parliamentarians have shown them very rightly the ways. I mean, they have criticized in the European Parliament very rightly that you guys are the same criminal guys, and now you are talking so high about it, and really they are unable to do it, helpless. So this is how this climate things are also going on. So really sorry for this, but it is also a reality. Coming to one startup statistics, a slide you have shown, and you showed the data of, and this data is again very old, obsolete data. Like until 2023, you had shown the lowest startup status. Startup, I mean the number of startups in India. 2013 was the lowest, and then it is increased until 2016. But in reality, in India, the Indians know very well that in 2018 and 19, before the COVID, was the very great fall of all these the businesses, because of the GST was brought in, because of the other industrial failure or policy failures of the government, and there was the huge number of the jobless people on the roads. And suddenly, um, we Indians call it "billi ke bhag se chhinka toot gaya," means for the luck of the cat, the whole the spot of the full of the curd has fallen on the ground. So for COVID, the COVID has come, and then COVID has covered up the whole weakness of the government. And then we see that how the joblessness has become very rampant in this country. And today the businesses have just destroyed by the government itself. And there is no really not a very good situation this time. And it's pathetic situation of the economy also. Extremely pathetic situation of this country. It is just running like Sri Lanka, in the worse than Sri Lanka. It's a huge economy. That's how it is just like being managed. Otherwise, the worst situation than even worse than Sri Lanka. Lastly, your nature-based livelihoods, you have very rightly pointed out um, in relation to the climate. I mean, the coping with the climate, but my impression is that the list is just conventional list. I see when these climate debates were just non-existent, like 30 years ago, there was nobody talking about this climate as the people are talking today. The same list was existing that time too. Even the mushroom, even the selling the same local products. So that those were the part of the conventional livelihood options people have been doing. So I guess this climate kind of thing, I don't know how to think with this with the climate. This is just usual and conventional list of the activities for. But yes, obviously your lecture is having very good indication towards 2070 scenario. 2070 is far away. I think by 2050, the scenario of the whole world will change in relation to the energy consumption, energy production. So I believe that this oil is going to become redundant all over the world. And I also have a hope that this war by the powerful countries for the oil, like to control the various oil producing companies, countries, oil producing countries, and intervening into the politics and then converting into the war, like they have done in Libya, they have done in Iraq, they have done in Syria. All this was just for the oil control by the particularly by the Americans. So I think once the oil will become redundant, and this supremacy of these world powers will also go down. So like the Germany is emerging as the number one in terms of the solar systems, and many European countries like Austria and Denmark and Sweden, etc., they have been very increasingly working on these energy systems and bringing all the systems like railway, cars, etc., into the electric electric alternatives. So I think by 2050, all landscape of the world will change, and this wars, etc., will also go down. Probably. I mean, this is just I'm hopeful, pessimist, optimistic. Thank you, sir, for this. I think maybe it's not my criticism to your. Please don't mistake anything like that. It's just the kind
No,
of.
I really appreciate your observations. You keenly noted down everything. Of course, of course, now time is short to have further discussion, but yeah, we can continue to have these conversations in the future, because these interventions are important. Of course, some are old, some are being repackaged, and some are being reinvented, of course. But then we'll have to this fight against all these changes happening at the environment, in the global environment, and it's the fight against, it's going to be long, and we'll have to consistently perform and put our heads and hands together to bring out solutions with innovations and sustenance. So that's the key as I see it. And yeah, thank you once again for this opportunity to come on and share my thoughts on this.
Thank you, sir, for we are exceeding time now. So
Right,
thank
sir.
you, audience, for your cooperation, for your support. Tomorrow is our last lecture for the November series, and the next one will happen in the month of June next year.
Right.
That will be double series next year on the natural resource law, specialty natural resource law, and also the general series like we have
Mm.
this law. So in the month of June, it will be a double series. Other than that, for your certificates of the attendees for these lectures, so we will you will receive an email for that, and then accordingly we will prepare the list, final list, and then we will issue the certificate. Some people have simply registered and then they have never attended the lecture. They have simply register and go, register and go. So we will verify this with with our recorded videos, so that the nobody can simply make a false claim. So we will do that. Thank you so much for your. Thank you.
Namaste again. Thank you.